This technique has now been extended to reveal archaeological chemical evidence of visits and activities by intelligent extraterrestrials. Also, in the same way light energy from celestial objects in space reaches the Earth's surface, so do magnetic energy fields from their chemicals. Such fields include the fields from extraterrestrial biology and technology.
And there's two, Nigel.
That was when we were working on the Battle of Hastings. But no, that was just to keep my rods together, yeah. Because they are meant to be as a pair. When I fashioned them in a Welsh forge, deep in a Welsh mountain cave.
Thank you very much, because I know it's a lot of
yeah, they're
effort
really
to
nice.
do it.
They're great for training, so they're actually.
But I know you're working very hard to prepare it.
Yeah.
No more people. I told many of them, and I only.
Hello everybody, and welcome to this workshop. If we can have everybody paying attention in this way, we're going to make a start. This is Nigel Hughes. Geoff Crockford is doing some work in the grounds, which we'll have a look at a bit later. He's been testing some things with these guys. This is Don Hocking and his wife Margaret. Don is a retired physicist and has been working with the biolocation system now for a little while, and I think you're going to find it very, very interesting indeed. This is a real privilege, I believe, that we have access to this information. So I do think this is groundbreaking stuff. I'm just a mere novice. I haven't plugged into this the way I had hoped to by now. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. I call this Biolocation Day. On your notes there, set the notes is what we're going to attempt to get through today. And they're not necessarily cloaking for our benefit. This is what they have to do in order to live in the way that they actually do, particularly in space, where electromagnetic energy is extremely corrosive. Other energies are out there. Your spaceship wouldn't last months out there if you were flying around the solar system, because your metal would ionize, there'd be problems and all sorts of things. So their technology is, so advanced, they have this ability to master energy and control it. I think we need to say that right from the word go, because what we do can see through this very clearly, and they let us see through it. Now, we don't go the way of abduction. What we deal with, we are told there's no risk. However, there is risk out there, because as with any life forms and technology, there will be some part of it which will challenge the status quo. So let's get into the dowsing. But I'll just introduce somebody from the Biolocation Team. Me, Don, in the pub and wanting to learn to dowse. We started off with teaching the basics that you're going to have a look at today. I didn't mention anything about ETs or anything about space, because for the first part of the morning we're not going to do much on that, because we've got quite a story to tell. But I seem to recall one day in your garden when we brought up what we call a hologram of the sun and the planet. That was a technique that we discovered quite early on, that we could create these magnetic holograms. We'll talk more about what those are a bit later, but they're actually, like you look at a light hologram, you've got a complete energy entity there, which is real, and it's got all the energy of the actual thing there. And then I showed Don the other side of the sun, directly opposite the Earth, a huge space station.
Big surprise.
And I've done this a few times with people. And then you can see with all of us, it's not one of ours. We've got quite a story to tell. So what I'm sort of going to do is to teach you the basic techniques. And then once that you're happy and you're getting the idea, we can then show you the evidence that we think is there. First of all, in the form of chemical stains and archaeology, and we've got these lovely artifacts here and other things which we're only just chatting. But this evidence that we're going to look at is real and it's easy to find, and the main one is in the form of chemical stains in the ground, because when a craft comes down it actually leaves a chemical stain in the ground, and it's quite easy to find. And the difference perhaps that we're finding with our work is that although I don't like the word ET, I prefer something like exo-intelligence. They're here all the time. They're landing all the time. But they're not like, you know, some of the UFO encounters, Mendelssohn Forest, which we've studied, where there's a ship and there's lights and there's all sorts of... They're coming down on a regular basis, and in the day as well. There's a very simple reason why they're so evasive to see. It's their technology. We see and measure our world by means of electromagnetic energy. Now these guys can hide from that. Their technology doesn't see the electromagnetic radiation or energy, doesn't actually see their craft. Or them, because they wear particular sort of clothing and suits to protect them. Lots of good reasons why that is the case. And also the electromagnetic energy behaves as if they're not there. So one could be standing outside that window now, and might be for all we know, you won't even know they're there. And that's what we are dealing with. We're not dealing with these visits of lights and flashing. We're dealing, they are around on the planet, and we've looked at this, Don and Margaret have looked at this in the States, Geoff in New Zealand, in Australia, sort of Europe, wherever we look, they are active on the planet. So this is a physical sort of evidence. So what we're going to do then is to show you how we can look through this cloaking that they actually have. They're not necessarily cloaking for our benefit. This is what they have to do in order to live in the way that they actually do, particularly in space, where electromagnetic energy is extremely corrosive. The main thing we're going to be using today are the dowsing rods, and the rods I've made for you to take away. These rods are superb for what we do for training. Once you've done some training, you can develop your own feel and your own rods. I know Don has, but these are really good for training. They're just coat hangers, and it's to show you the fundamental mechanism of dowsing. There's a lot of mystique and all sorts of things attached with dowsing. We're going to sort of unbundle that, because very simply it's our hypothesis theory that we are responding to magnetic energy. And this magnetic energy is a lesser known form of magnetism called paramagnetism and dimagnetism. The theory fits the observations. All around us is this sea of energy, and it's very geometric. We can look into this sea of energy and see all sorts of things you can't normally see with your other senses. And more importantly is how we see them, because they generate a lot of paramagnetic and dimagnetic energy, and they also use it for communication. So that's why it's no good, we were chatting earlier, looking for radio signals out there from ET. You're not going to find them. No. They use magnetic communication. So that's what we're going to be responding to, is a physical energy. Paramagnetism and dimagnetism is known in the scientific world, though it's not realised how real effective it is as a sort of energy. Because compared to iron magnetism, ferromagnetism fields, and it's creating a response in two muscles here, pronation and supination. And why I've got these little cardboard tubes, because this is a model of what's actually happening. So the rods are not being moved by some external force. You're moving them as you encounter the energy. So all that's happening, if the cardboard tubes are your forearms, as we rotate, the rods move in. Now the rods, another response is that the rods, I'll show you this later, the rods can move out, or the rods can go to one side, or the rods can go that way as well. So what I'd like you to try now, in fact just take them in turns, is one of you just stand up, hold the arms and feel how sensitive these movements are. So when we actually get you dowsing on an energy line in a moment, you realise you've got to have very subtle movements to actually do that. So if you could have a go at that, if you all got two to have a go there. You've got 2 there. So just stand up, relax. There's another one here. And just get the feel. And if you bear with me on this, this really does help. There you go. So just have a little go and get the feel how subtle those movements need to be to control the rods. Okay, so find yourself a space. We'll be walking around the room a lot. Now if they get a bit too wild, just tilt them forward.
I've got only one.
Okay, right. So there we go. That's it. So hold them there like this.
Tienes que estar arriba.
Yeah, like that. Okay. That's it.
Tilt them down a bit, that'll go parallel.
Miriam, allí está el
And
otro.
you can lift them up a little bit.
Okay,
And you'll
something like that.
see as you turn your
Okay, yeah.
wrists
That's
like
it, good.
that, the
Good.
rod will
There
move
we
in
go.
like that.
So rotate your things together and they'll come together.
Hardly, it's very
That's
subtle
it, yeah.
movement.
So
You're
you
not
go
aware
to a
of
small
it.
movement,
Yeah.
they're going.
Yeah.
So when we get on to you using the rods, you've got to get
And
these
they-
rods
they
under control.
move
So
them
it's just
outwards,
getting
yeah.
your muscle memory now used to this. So if you just
Almost
rotate them in,
nothing.
that's it.
And I am the one who controls this then.
Yes,
That's
you
what
are the
he
one
said, so
controlling
if
this.
Each
Yeah.
when it's without this, that one is moving by sense, by my
No,
electromagnetic.
your arms will be moving those as well. I'll show you that. So turn them out and move them out, rotate them out. That's it. Now put them back in the middle
Be magnified by.
and then try and swing them both to one side. Because you're now using muscles you're not used to using. And it's a bit, you know,
This way.
Okay.
that's it.
And I need to keep my mind.
No, you have to
No,
it's
just do muscles.
yeah, just do muscles. Just, you know,
Doing nothing
it's
with
a
your
physical
mind.
coordination. And then you rotate them there.
You want to play?
Yeah, well, more than that, you're actually getting your muscles now activated to the movement. When people do other dowsing techniques, the muscles go yeah, and it's that rotation.
I'll take your eye out, Joe, I'll do it.
Okay, did you?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
okay. This is really important. Okay, right, so let's tilt these
Entiendo el
forward like
porqué.
this,
Me
okay?
explicó.
Right, now what
Más
you're going
tarde.
to do, feel what I do with the
Después, ahorita no te lo manejamos.
Practice.
And if you rotate them in,
Yeah.
and then you can rotate them
Tilting the toy roll.
Very quickly, just take this one line as you're walking through
So
it.
have a go and get the rotation on that.
Porque cuando venga el propio, te va a controlar a ti si tú no lo controlas.
A bit like a dummy.
Tilt them forward.
Este no tiene defecto.
And you walk across it.
That's it.
Se mueve,
That's it.
solo mueve así, mueve
That's it. No back in.
No, no.
Yeah.
Mueve así, ahorita le muestro las
When my head goes past the bone, see? My head is at the bone. Whereas here, it's my hands.
Yeah.
Right?
This one is quicker for the response.
Yeah, but can you see the position? So if I go back now to the rods, when we use diamagnetic fields, and you won't be using diamagnetic fields the rest of the day. So look, when I do this, I respond. If I put my hands way out here, I come past the bone. They don't respond until I hit the bone on my head. Can you see that? Whereas here, if I put my hands out here,
It's working.
as soon as they level with the bones, yeah? And if I cover my hands, it'll block the thing. So this, as you see later, will be quite important. But don't worry, we won't be using diamagnetic fields now after this, because the fields we douse in our work are paramagnetic, well not all, but the fields you'll use today are paramagnetic fields. So I'd like you to try that. If you come in, just hold your hands and just satisfy yourself. And even when you get good at this, you don't even need to walk through it. You watch now, you can go. Now that's a real technique. If you've got a grave in the ground, you can put your hand in and you can, or you can even use an aerial, which we'll talk about later on. So you can plot things out really precisely by doing this. Right, shall we have a go at this then?
Number one.
We'll get Geoff to work with you now.
Okay.
Right.
No, this is where
Okay.
the paramagnetic is coming out of here. So you have to have your hands.
Well, I've got some in here, Geoff, who's stopped responding nicely.
So your hands need to be at sort of level with the bone here.
Okay, so off you go.
There you go.
Right.
And if you hold your hands out further, you'll be sure that it's your hands that are doing it.
I've got to be in my chair. Hold
Yeah,
on.
in your chair.
Let me get out of my head.
And just make sure your fingers are not
coffee. The side of the bone is paramagnetic and the skin.
Good. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's good. Okay, come on, go.
Responding late.
There's no other bone.
Because it's the fields of the...
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. That's good. John?
There you go.
So hold your hands out and satisfies your hands that respond. That's it. Tilt them forward a bit, will stop them swinging. Nice, gentle walk, sitting in your chair. Keep walking, keep walking. Hope we didn't get that one. Try that one.
But then you can, because it works the same, but it's just...
That's it. That was a little bit of that. Try it again, John. We'll give the bone a rest now. If you go in twos, you can douse each other's aura, just sitting in a chair, walk towards someone, and you'll get their aura there. Like that. Yes?
I'm going to see the aura of the person and start moving like that.
Right, well, what can happen? The auras can flip, polarity. Right, so the north will go to the south and the south will go to the north.
Means put the head on the floor and the feet on up.
It can mean a number of things we'll look at in a moment. So if you stand up and Joan, do you want to come and do my aura or do Margaret's? Or,
Yes, I'll
yeah, in the chair. And that's why the things are there. Just come and stand with me and I'll walk you through it. Okay?
After
Keep walking. That's it. That's fine. You need to drop it. Okay, let's go. Okay, just keep walking, just keep walking. No, just keep walking, keep walking. Right, we didn't get that one, did we?
No.
Okay, now try again, Joe. So you're just sitting in your chair. Nice steady walk. Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking.
They're all magnetic.
You just need to put a little bit
No, that's
up
because
the level
it's-
of
That's me.
No, it's not
This
you.
level here.
Yeah,
Exactly
the-
here. It's the pineal area.
I'll try
There's the pineal bone. And the third eye. Many animals still have a third eye here. And that's the one that responds off this diamagnetic field.
Try this one here.
Paramagnetic field is the skin, everywhere the skin.
There we go. Try that one now. Keep walking.
The more you try,
There we are. That's fine. Okay. Right, all take a seat.
So what was the difference there, Nigel, with Jones?
That was interference on the bone. Right. Anyway, it's the field can actually move. Okay. Right. Well done, everyone. So bear with me taking you through these exercises. Were we all responding?
Yes.
Excellent. That's good. Now we can really get down to earth. One thing I want to show you now, because Joan there didn't get responses. It wasn't Joan. Because if I use this level, I come in here, I get a lovely response there now. Okay, now just look what happens. If I come in at an angle, I don't respond. You've got to hit this. Now this is science. What you do, you get something, you start changing things to see the properties. You've got to hit this energy at an angle. As I said, the next hour we're going to be looking at lots of things like this. And the more you understand, the better your responses will become. So if I come in there, I don't respond. So I've got, and it's quite precise, I have to hit this energy line at a precise angle. Now what happened there, Joan, was that this energy line can move. Because if you read my notes, this energy can overlap quite benignly, or sometimes it will get interactive. And if that energy line moves, then what we say, you don't see the energy. So I come in there and get that there. So I come in there, I don't get it. Now the other thing then you can try is this, is when you come in, once you get your response, stop, and the response stops. And then walk back, and it will do that. Okay? So this is the response. We go in, I hit the energy, my muscles turn, I go through it, my muscles return back to the thing, okay? If I walk backwards, the same will happen. So this is how we get control of the response. If I come in here, and stop, the response will stop, and then I come back. Now that is really useful because one thing we will be doing is following the line. And I come in here, I stop, I come back, I make a little, and I'm still on the line. And I come back here, and I'm still on the line. So following lines of energy is one of the techniques we'll be actually looking at a little later, because this energy is very geometric. So I'm telling you there's a line there, we look at evidence as to why it is in a moment. So what I'd like you to do now, using the bone, so satisfy you've got a response, and then what I'd like you to do is then simply try it at an angle. Now you're getting used to the energy, you'll feel it quite flat. And then try this reversal, as I call it. Come in, stop, and move back. Remember, you're sitting in a chair, this is an involuntary response. You haven't got to think about doing this. So, if we assist, so I'm going to come up here, so I'm going to come up there, have a go. Yeah. And let me just check this bone is... And walk out.
Oh, that's good. Very good. Now, what Nigel suggests is come in at an angle. This is you come in 90 degrees, like square. If you come in at an angle, that almost doesn't respond. No response. Because it's a different angle. That's what.
And stop, and we respond. Stop.
Wounded.
Okay, I'm going back.
Yeah, lovely. That was quick.
Okay, I'm going back.
Good point.
You're my native.
Right,
We haven't got any bones to be more worrying.
I want you perform.
I'm no chicken.
Is that a chat outline?
Walk in till I come back.
Is that what you say to all of them?
That's it. Okay.
I'm
Now turn around.
going to find different
Turn around now, face me. Yeah. Go, turn around and face me. There we are. This way now. Let me just adjust your...
Well, maybe
Put your fingers a little bit lower. So that's it. Tilt them forward a
focus
bit. Right? Now walk until they cross.
90 degrees, then that's
Stop.
most sensitive.
Now walk backwards.
A little off, you can still...
And then when you push through that, you see?
That's it.
Okay, you're going to go. Good response. That's okay. So that's turn around now, face me. Walk this way. That's it. And when they cross, stop. Stop. Backwards. Keep going. Look at that. Walk. Brilliant. So that's all that's actually happening. You're going to have a...
Begin to feel it, don't you?
Yeah, Joan, you're going to come up and have a go?
Yes, thank you.
Stop.
You're sitting
And then come back. And come
When
back.
they close it.
Walk until the rods cross. Stop. And if you can just go backwards now, they'll come open. Anyway, that's fine.
No, you started walking backwards.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, Joan?
Just follow this.
Yeah.
Stop and then just...
Yes, you see, you're just getting better.
That's lovely. Stop. I'm back now.
It crossed sooner than before. Afterwards was
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
lovely.
That's interesting,
isn't
isn't it? Traffic lanes here.
Right. Thank you, folks, and thank you for your patience, because we're going to spend a bit more time doing these basic exercises. But you're doing great, and getting those smooth rod controls, because the precision work you'll see as we get on will happen. Everybody okay? Any questions? Yeah? Right, now let's show you another little interesting thing here. So what I'm going to do is carefully turn the bone around. So this time we're going to walk through a line at the back of the bone. Okay, we're just going to have a look at one last thing with your witnesses. Margaret, could you turn off? I forgot to cut them up. Right, sugar salt paper. Margaret's going to give you some sugar witnesses. I'd like you to just douse the sugar on the paper. Just take this up to lunch. More staining, because it's not only physical liberation that actually happens. So it should be one between two. You share there, is that right, Ken? Yeah. Right. I also, liquid chemicals can also actually stain as well. There's sugar there.
That's
And in here as
Dropped
well.
it.
And in here as well.
Yeah, and there.
Yeah, because when you pass...
And there's some sugar there. Have a walk around, find the sugar all around the room. They're pretty messy people in here. They're really over. No. what we are getting, which I'm just going to talk about briefly, you get things called phantoms.
Get things called what?
Phantoms.
Phantoms.
Yeah, where the energy is thrown and you think it's there, the energy is there, but the target actually isn't there.
Interesting.
So it's like a reflection of it.
That's it, it's like a reflection of it.
Once these things are in around,
Yeah.
is there anything that can erase them? Like, you know, you said,
No,
you know, like,
only dig the ground out.
that's the only way you can.
That's the only way.
Like the Rendlesham
They fix,
forest
yeah.
thing, that's like 30 something years.
Oh yeah.
And it's still left that
We
imprint.
dose things thousands of years old.
Yeah.
So what happened? Because she found sugar.
But she didn't respond there, she found sugar there. Right, a little bit thing. So, right, I come and douse it down here now. Try the sugar on that now, down there.
We're not getting a positive on that. Now let's just... This is what I was
There's sugar anywhere in this half of the room. Try the sugar in this half of the room.
titanium around.
Just walk around, you'll pick up the sugar everywhere. And again, Ken, keep walking, try another one now down here. And you'll pick up another one here. But up here you won't find any sugar at all.
It's all titanium could be when you start shorting.
So the chemicals could be there by abrasion. If you get an iron nail and on a patio, and try this at home, just scrape the patio with your iron nail, give it 5 minutes, you'll douse the iron. And no matter how much you scrub or wash that patio, you won't get... It's like someone releasing billions of tons of frozen peas into a mountain range. They'll all go down the cracks and crevices, create a field, and you'll be able to douse it. And as I said, my footpath, I just walked up and down there 8 times, and already there's enough human skin, because 90% of dust in the house, or perhaps higher, is human skin. Yeah.
So Nigel, can you just repeat about the extraterrestrial element?
Yeah, in the same way we're observing these simulated tracks, you'll find these everywhere out in the field, ancient tracks for the use of the chemicals, and that's how we know they're active at the moment, because they leave tracks.
So we're
Very
talking about
characteristic chemicals,
extraterrestrials.
extraterrestrial tracks. They're very, very clear. Very clear, that's one of the evidence, yes.
So what happened? The crop circles, you know, happen in the field. They kind
Long story there, we can chat about it over lunch, but everyone we've looked at is man-made, because when they're out making the circle, you get all the chemicals from the soil and what they actually do. It's really powerful, this method. We have found some real crop circles, but they're not as elaborate. All the elaborate ones I've looked at, and in fact, I won't show you this, I won't do this now, but several years ago I made a crop circle, and it was incredibly magnetically active, and these are the sheaves from it. That's the North Pole, like your bone, big northern line coming out of there. Who's got a quick douse? Margaret, can you come and douse this? That angle, don't forget your angle. Quite a strong line. As soon as you get those sheaves doing this, you then get amazing energy. Lines of energy start coming off and interference
Got the
patterns.
geometric figure.
Yeah, and that's what first attracted me to crop circles, because everybody does is talking about these amazing energies that you get about crop circles. Sorry, it's from the corn. It's not extraterrestrial energy. However, we have found some extraterrestrial corn circles, and that's where the ship has come down and created an effect. Diamagnetic fields repel each other, and there is a theory that if there's intense diamagnetism in the ground, it will move things. I think that's correct to say, Geoff, isn't it? But they're quite simple patterns. So, and in fact, 2 years ago, I was walking my dogs across a field, and I stopped dead in my tracks, and there was this crop circle. Remember that, Geoff? You came over.
Yeah.
And we dosed it, and it's got all the chemicals from the craft and them. And then, more than that, there's a great big hologram of the craft. From there, that's what made us realise that we were actually landing from time to time. And we could pick up the trails from them coming off the ship and wandering all around the park at night.
You guys went to Rendlesham Forest, didn't you?
We did, yes. There's a report on the website.
Yeah.
See there, there's the outline of the craft. Perfect detail.
Triangle.
Yeah. Okay. The other track is a footpath. And in footpaths, you'll get the chemicals from the soles of your feet. And the other track is an ancient track where it's got iron wheels, beef fat lubrication, and it's also got horses dung running down the middle of the track. Use your question. What else might you find on an ancient track?
Coins,
Sorry?
old coins.
Chemical residues. That's what we're talking about. Chemical.
Oil.
Sorry?
No, copper. No.
Beef fat is.
Beef fat.
What's a horse covered in?
Skin.
Hair. You pick up the horse skin. You'll pick up the hooves. And this is what happens in reality. In a track, every chemical, where there's abrasion going on, you will find on that track. And this is how we know the ET are active at the moment, because their little vehicles they travel around with at night leave characteristic chemicals, which we'll talk about later. But we only know this from our work in our book on the archeology. So here's a track here. You can see there's lubrication, because lubrication stains. But this track here then, you got those witnesses. Well, let me just show you first of all. You walk across out there in general focus, and God, that track's really magnetically active. Really active. Yeah, walk yourself in like that and stop on the edge of it. That's it. Walk yourself in right up to the edge of it. Now another technique you can do is this, you see. Like that, you see.
Ah, okay, and then what happens?
Yeah, right, so there's energy. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's what we want to see. Right, now the question, we're going to use a witness to find out what's on that track. Right, so let's try WD-40. Who's got a WD-40 witness? Can you find any WD-40 on that track? Now remember, sitting in your chair, get yourself checked, and in you go. Right, because remember, you need a good true response here. So in you go. Okay, so someone else try WD-40 on this track. Okay, right. Right, can I just body witness? So I'm going to try WD-40 on this track. WD-40. I don't get a response. Yet you do.
Why?
Because sometimes if you think you're going to respond, you will. So what about you, Ken? You with the WD-40 or not?
No, I'm with the WD-40.
You're not getting a response there, are you? Yeah, you're not getting responses on WD-40.
When you block.
No, I haven't touched it. Okay, now try your beef fat. Beef fat witness?
Beef fat. Beef fat.
Beef fat.
Yes, it's there. It was before.
Okay, beef fat. Right, now remember, you're sitting in your chair, you've got to blank your mind, because you want this to be an automatic response, not some, you can imagine a response.
Yeah.
Right, so that's beef fat. Now this is where you're using your sense, so sit, walk in now, brisk walk in and stop at the edge of the paper. Okay, have a little break now, dancing. So what about the beef fat? Somebody else like to come and try on beef fat? Yeah. Is there beef fat or not? With WD-40's out, we've ruled that one out. You do get, you've got to be very careful. This is why it's good to work as a team, when we call it the Biolocation Team. Together everyone achieves more. Because you can get false positives and false negatives. So you can check that in numerous ways. First thing to go for is your technique. Relax. You can get contamination. Sometimes your witness you're using, you could have a rubber witness, but there could be a bit of something else on the witness. Almost a forensic exercise, but you see, show you something else that's really spooky now. Just put it there. Right, we'll see that target. Yep. Right, you walk across there will be no response, nothing there. Thank you, go back. Now I'm going to show you my superhuman powers. Margaret, I'm going to make you respond now. Right, hang on. Yeah. Margaret, you won't respond now. So it looks like I'm controlling Margaret's dowsing. I'm not, because the human mind has a transmitter. And it's called Sideline. Very useful. Again, I'm not going to go into the detail of that, other than it's a dowsing exercise, and I just want you to try some Sideline's in a moment to improve your reflexes. Sideline's are very interesting. Perhaps the basis of telepathy. A lot going on in our research with Sideline's. Our friends from upstairs, when they want us to know they're about, they muck around with our dowsing, and this is one of the ways they actually do it. Later on, I'm hopeful, if you're not too skeptical and don't think we're too crazy, if you want to, and the situation is right, we will show you an extraterrestrial communication that you can actually do it. So that's why I'm doing this, because the day is for the AMMACH people to realise this dowsing is to look at the evidence of them being there.
Nigel, can I just clarify psi? It's PSY
PSI.
we're talking about.
Right, I'm going to make you douse, okay? So you will now douse. Oh, that's fine. Go back now. Go back to the tripod, just relax. Okay, you will not douse.
Maybe a hologram inside.
Here we go. What's happening there, and you can try this, you make your sideline, it's nothing magical or mysterious, but you transmit a line which goes into the wall and then the line comes back out. All I'm doing when I do this is that my transmission is moving the line. So like I showed you about the angle, you won't see it because the line has moved. If you hunt around, you will find it. So nothing magical or mystery going on. But it's a great, try sideline, two of you. Just look at the wall, find a space, point at the wall, and have a go at the sideline. So that's what I'd like you to do now. From them, they have been regularly working alongside us. Not that we're getting much out the benefit, it's quite hard work, but because there's this magnetic communication, which is what they do. We've actually got two of them outside the front of the hotel, because they're about in the day. So, all going well out there, we'll try and show you the evidence. There are two magnetic entities there, and they're in this cloaking mode where they are hidden from the electromagnetic energy, the sunlight and all that sort of thing. And we'll try, and if some of you want to, we'll try and get you to communicate with them magnetically. And that's using the sideline. What you actually do, you'll stand there, you'll send the sideline to the, well that, I think female, the one out there at the moment's female. They'll send one back to you, and they will also make your rods move as well. I think that's in the theme of what we're talking about. So we're still researching this. We do a lot of other work dowsing as well. We look for water pipes and things like this, except these aliens have come into our lives, very interested in us, as they are with a lot of people, and they show us things, but we have to work them out. It's really, because they send down these holograms of things, so we know what their engines look like, we know what we could never build one. The money you would need to research it. But they're obviously trying to see what we can actually do, we feel. But they're just with us. They'll get us up in the middle of the night, the house will vibrate. And you know they're outside, they want to do some work with you. So you've got to be really careful what you ask for. No threat from them, we've established that. So they're interested in the dowsing, I think, as much as we're sort of interested in them. Right, let me just get the stones to show you what we actually do with the hologram.
Folks, there's no room in the car park.
Car park's full. Stick it on the low. We've got reserved parking. Right, all you're going to do is a stone here, I've washed them, so you get one each, and all you do to make a hologram of yourself, I'll just demonstrate mine. I've got some witnesses to give out. Right, so I'm standing here, all I have to do is this, hit that. Now, on there is now a hologram of me. The one in your hand is the one that creates the hologram. And so, all I need to do now, so I come around here, I'm not getting any responses. As soon as I come up, roughly when I stand it, I respond. So there's the energy anomaly of my hologram. Yeah, they there?
Please.
Yeah. Right, so there. So I've got some witnesses, human hair, this little lock of my hair, which is why I'm follically challenged. I've been doing this for years, giving away my hair. There's also a little bit of nail there as well. I just cut the nail and I smeared it and that comes off on there. But you'll even pick up the nails of your hand, where it actually is. And you can do this in graves. When you tumble to this hologram business, we were down working in Brighton at an old estate down there, quite historic family with royal connections. And they had a guy who used to look after their energies and well-being. And in the garden, there's this sunken garden. You could see these little children running around at night. So Geoff and I went out there and looked, straight away we picked up, there's a children's graveyard. What we discovered, alongside the grave, is a hologram of the person in the grave.
Wow.
So it's not supernatural, it's part, because you have one, when you lie in bed, you've got a hologram sticking up as well. We could douse it in absolute clarity, with little children, their little smocks and things like this. And we found this with ancient graves. So you find an ancient grave, Anglo-Saxon, if they've been laid in a natural burial, you'll find the hologram of the person who's buried quite clearly, and you pick up all the witnesses. So this hologram formation is complex, but it's a widespread phenomenon, and it does enable us to see them as well. And they're quite happy for us to see their holograms. So anyway, that's, if I come in there, so if I got human skin, covered in skin, so wherever I go, I will get my human skin right there.
Are you nearly ready to come outside? Geoff's pawing the ground, waiting for a telepath.
And then I'm just going to get him to do this, and then we'll be ready for him, tell him. Right, now if I come in here, we'll give these out, if I find some human skin. Let's do salivary gland. So my salivary gland is up here. So here's, like we were doing with the sideline, there's the saliva. I come up here, and as soon as I come up to head level, that's the response. If you get human blood, you'll pick up all the human blood there. If you, or other unusual things would you, or thyroxine, I've got one thyroxine, because my wife's thyroid's a bit dodgy, so I've got some thyroxine thing. You'll pick up the thyroxine. And you'll also pick these up in graves. You go along the grave, you pick up clear as anything, still there, even though the body may have long gone, because the chemical stain is still actually there. We have a go at this hologram just for 5 minutes and convince yourself there's a real hologram there. That's good practice for you there. I'll give out the witnesses. Flat stone to everyone. And then Geoff, this is because our extraterrestrial visitors, I'll come back to you there. There's human hair, 1, 2, 3, 4. But sometimes we have to go this way to dowse as well, because this energy is actually three-dimensional, and a lot of dowsing gets tied up with just lines and things like this, and it's not. It's a three-dimensional phenomenon.
So it's not like a ley line?
Well, ley lines can be airborne, or they can come out of the ground.
Right.
So if it's an airborne ley line, like with the sideline, you'll find it.
Right.
And yeah, so what I'm saying is when you do our research and start to look at the geometry, you find out where the energy is and its shape, and that tells you a lot. But I say this is a course in just getting the responses initially. Right, now, one next step is very important, and it's dealing with what's called witnesses. And so we're just dowsing, and Joanne asked about general focus, that we were looking at the bone. How do we know it was a bone and find it? Well, we have this focus, but we can help that focus by using what's called a witness or comparator. And all you have to do for that is simply hold a sample of the chemical that you're actually dowsing. So bone contains phosphate, and this is phosphate, what we call phosphate witness here. We've got little tubes we use, or we use little cards, and we'll be introducing witnesses at the moment. And you just simply hold the witness as you dowse, so that takes a little bit of getting used to. What that witness will do is it will sensitize you considerably more to what you're trying to dowse. I don't know, have we got to figure how many fold it increases the sensitivity? Have we ever looked at that, the witness?
How much the...
is increased?
No, we've never sort of quantified it.
Quite a lot.
Oh yes.
Quite a lot, yeah. So you could be out looking for fields from... let me say as well, when we talk about stains, which we'll look at next in a moment before lunch, you don't need a lot of stuff to find the energy from it. But when you hold a witness, you are really sensitive to small amounts. With figures like you could be able to detect 50, 80 atoms or something like this, yeah? So we're going to use the bone at the moment. I've got some phosphate witnesses. Have you got phosphate there, Geoff?
Yeah, that's what I've got here.
Yeah. If anybody has a phosphate witness, now hang on to your witnesses, because
when they do their bones, they've got to be looking at the paramagnetic field, of course.
That's right, yes, we have, yeah. I just used the diamagnetic field, Geoff, just to activate them, and we've looked at the paramagnetic field on the bone. Yeah. So we're going to give you a phosphate witness, and what I want you to do is set your bone up paramagnetic. That's not with the shaft pointing, that's that way. And find that bone line and see if you notice any difference holding the witness. I've seen people throw their rods on the floor because they've gone, God, that's really lively. But just because we'll be using witnesses now from now on as the rest of the day goes on. So if we get our bone set up here, remember that's diamagnetic, we're not using diamagnetic, and witnesses are not So if I bring that down there.
Have you got a spare one, Geoff? Have you got a spare one?
Actually, you want one as well, do you?
Don't worry. So Geoff, sorry we came just now. What are we looking at here with the flags? I'm sorry, I heard post holes. Are we looking, is this the temple?
This is a druidic temple, and I've just marked out a little bit of it so that people can have a go at finding it. And once you can pick up a post hole, you can sort of explore for other post holes. Now they won't all be in order because there's been a lot of excavation here, and some of the things have been churned up and you can't find them. But you've got a sector there which will get you started. Now, the row of yellow flags going in towards those red flags, that's a row of post holes because the building is supported on posts at regular intervals. There's a ring around, just as there's a ring around the outside. Every one of those flags is on a ring, and if you go either side of them you'll pick up additional post holes which are going around. Thing is, they follow a pattern. You'll find that there are 3 at regular intervals coming in, then there's a gap. You can actually see that gap there, and then you've got 6 post holes before you get to the red ones. And that pattern of 3, a gap and 6 comes from the summer aura of the oak. And if you go in towards an oak tree in summer from outside, you pick up 3 rings, then a gap, then 6 rings before you get to the trunk. So they've taken that from the summer aura of the oak. There's also a pattern close to the center which is based on the winter aura of the oak, but that is complex, so I have not mapped that out. Now, as you move in, you come to the end of the yellow flags, and you'll see that there's an outer ring of red flags. And if you use your carbon witness, you will see that there's a wooden wall around there. And again, that comes up on your carbon. You come to the ring of yellow flags inside that, and you can pick that up on brick. Now that is the wall of the pool, and as soon as you're inside that, you will pick up on your pond sludge witness the fact that that used to be a pool of water and it's got pond sludge. And then the central red flag ring is a plinth going up from the center of the pool, and there would have been something on it, and we might have a go at trying to find out what that is. I think the first thing is to get the pattern of the temple. Now, the other bit of the pattern is you will see green flags. There are 4 green flags. There's 1 green flag over there, and there's 1 here,
And 2 over there. One in here, one by the...
and they divide the whole of the circle of the temple into 4, and those 4 segments belong to the spirits of the world, if you like. The Druids saw the world as having 4 spirits. The one to the north, which is the one we're standing in I think at the moment, is the snake or the dragon, and that is the shapeshifter. It's where the spirit goes after it's died, and it then comes out again, shifted and as another person and so on. Let's go over to that sector there to the west. The western sector is the cat. So if you've got cat hair or something like that, you'll pick up that sector. And that is death. So the cat is death. Then to the bottom sector to the south, that is, you'll find the fish. That is life. That is the life that we lead. And then to the east, you've got the deer, which is rebirth. So you have the life, you have death, you have shape-shifting, and then you have rebirth back into life again. And that concept of how the spirit moved was fundamental to the Druidic religion. You remember even Caesar comments on it and says that they have no fear of death because this was their world. And their people were divided into these 4 clans. So when they went into battle, you'd have the cat clan, the snake clan, and so on. The other thing you need to know is that there are 4 gates into this temple, obviously at the quarters, north, south, east, west. We are on the north gate, and at the gates there are 2 sets of bodies, and you can pick them up on phosphate. It says has got a gold tunic on, and they wear tin, not gold or bronze, tin, native tin, for head apparel, headgear, and for other items on their body. So they predate the use of bronze. So it's before the early Bronze Age, what we would normally refer to as the Stone Age. Their engineering was such that they could put up a building like this, and that pool is fed with water from a well. It's the other side of the road, and there's a well over there, and it's characteristically Druidic in that it's on an underground stream. It's a real stream running underground, and it's got weirs in it, and they always put a gold talisman by the end of one weir, so you can pick up the gold talisman that's down there. Then they piped the water, they raised it up into a water tower, so you can actually find the wooden outline of the water tower, and you can work out how deep it is because they'd have a deer pulling up the bucket, and all you've got to do is find out what that deer is doing in terms of how many meters. That tells you how deep the well is, and they bring it up and put it into the header tank. Then the header tank would be, or the water would come down in a pipe, and with your bit of brick witness again, you're going to be able to pick up the line of that pipe. In fact, there are 2 of them, so it was redone at a later date. The other thing you can pick up, by the way, is the drip line. You get a leaf or some dry grass, and you come into those flags at about sort of 1.5 meters, you'll get a response of the drip line where the water's come down, where the ships have been landing, because that's where the gods came down. Temples are there to represent the praise of the gods. And in some of the temples, one that I looked at in Ireland, instead of a fish over on the fish side, you actually have a painting of one of the extraterrestrials.
The Neanderthals created these, so that's pre-human, and that they built their temples on the site of where their gods, the ETs, had landed.
That's right.
Okay.
And the chemical remnants of all of that is in the ground, and you can pick it up and map it out very easily. I think that should give you enough to start exploring. What I suggest is you just make sure that
you run it one more time.
Don't worry, everybody's telepathic.
Yes.
Telepathic now.
Geoff, just to refresh everybody's memory about the chemicals from the exhaust, because we haven't covered that.
The ships would come down, and depending on whose ships they are, you'll find the exhaust, which is ammonia, beryllium or copper, xenon. There's a number of chemicals, and you can actually get the pattern of the engines. And if it was a permanent landing site, you'll get the guidance system, which is a copper wire going around it to guide them in. And you'll get the loading, unloading gantries and everything, and the aluminium railways. So with your aluminium witness, if you take a circuit round, you might pick up where the railway lines came from the landing site out to somewhere.
The engines aren't rocket engines, they don't burn. What they do is appears to accelerate particles to high speed, probably not far off the speed of light. Well, they're not burning stuff, so it's a particle accelerator engine, and that's what generates enormous thrust. You can pick all that up really clearly.
Okay.
You need a bit more time. This is the power, basically, of biolocation. You move into another world, awe-inspiring world as well.
See, you've got deer dung, see if you can find the curved, you can do the responses now. All the chemicals will still be there in the ground, it hasn't been disturbed, and where the flags are, you'll clearly get the response, just like we're doing in the classroom. using the deer dung. You'll even get the thickness of the wall if you're really careful with your inside and outside with these techniques. So just have I would suggest start on the wall first.
Yeah.
Because you'll all be able to do that. And then we'll work our way in. We'll take you through this, get to the middle temple, and then after we've done that, we can then show you all the exhausts.
Are they from Sirius?
Are they from Sirius? So Geoff, just to recap.
You go out to Barnard Star and you turn left, and their star is out to the left, and they live on a number of planets because it's not unusual for species to evolve in water. And this has colonised quite a few stars, or planets. Their main planet was out around the Sun star, which was to the right of Barnard Star. So we know their main planet, and we know what's happening.
Rolling then. So their profile, their breathing, their structure.
Yes, they evolved under very high pressure in an ocean which was capped by ice. It's like Europa, ice over an ocean which is kept warm by atomic reactions, radioactivity in the center of the planet. And that's where they evolved under very high pressure. And over the millions and millions of years, a very intelligent species emerged, which managed to get through the 10 miles of ice and master space flight. They are with us now, and if you use your pond sludge, you will pick them up over there.
So you call them, just for point of reference, the aquatics?
Aquatics, yep.
All right.
The Earth is a sacred planet, and it's kept that way by the Federation, which means that people can come down to it to observe us, but they're not allowed to interfere with us physically in any way. The only way they can interact with us is magnetically. So we can pick them up magnetically. I can talk to them magnetically because that's telepathy, but that's the only way they can interact with me. You've got 3 of them over there, there may be 6 around, and then there are other species around as well, including my guide, and my guide is human, and she belongs to a group that left Earth 14,000 years ago. There is in fact a big population out there which is a bit like Earth. In other words, there's a shortage of space, there's a shortage of materials, and in the Federation there are at least 24 different groups. It's on their flag. So we actually get their flags from their temples, and you can pick up the 24 planets that belong to the Federation. And they're painted, they've been painted on the ground, so it's not a question of magnetic remnants, it's actually chemical remnants. So we know what their flag is, and we can pick up the...
Do you know what they look like? Are they human or...
With 24 different species, they look all sorts of shapes and sizes, but generally they're...
The aquatics, though.
Oh, the aquatics are bipedal, with, we think, 4 arms, and a big head in relation to their body. They have a chitinous skin. Their skeleton seems to be based on cellulose and silicon. It can't be carbonate because of the high pressure, and it's based on silicon. So we do know a little bit about them. In fact, we know what they look like because they have a drawing on the ship that we looked at. This ship here will have a drawing probably of them, so we could map out what they look like here. If we had the ones that we looked at had a trident in one hand and a basket in the other hand, and that was one of their warships. There's a peace ship, should come up white, may come up white on zinc oxide, and therefore it may have a different emblem on it.
I am ET.
Here we've got in the centre of our craft, it's a CD case with a battery strapped to it and some witnesses. So let's just hear about how it's possible to bring down a magnetic hologram.
Yeah, this acts like a magnetic lens. The right combination of chemicals and the right orientation will attract magnetic fields from space down, and they will create this sort of hologram, 3D image around it, just in the way that we would use a telescope to focus light and see an image of a light, except this is three-dimensional. This is a natural process. It'll happen naturally under certain conditions, so all we've done is worked out the right combination of things to do it. So fields with the right stones in and the right magnetic makeup will actually capture these holograms from space. So the Earth is like a giant lens. We've just been able to understand that process and control it and bring down things to study. So what this has pulled down is a extraterrestrial craft, somewhere in orbit or near the Earth, and as rays of light come down from the stars and from planets and the moon, so its magnetic fields are captured and the whole system is reproduced here on the surface of the Earth. It's as simple as that.
When you're originally putting down the CD and the battery there, is it in mind to then bring a specific craft, or just...
No, you have to take what you get really, but if you put the appropriate witnesses in there that's specific to the craft of different sorts of chemicals on board, then you stand a chance of being able to control it.
Right.
It's also lined up north-south, the orientation of the magnetic fields as well. So it just looks a little pile of stuff, but it's actually quite precise that you have to do it. And you can change the size of it in a number of ways as well. So different types up there have different bloods and different things like this. So by putting those chemicals in there, you can actually pull down their craft as well. So it's a combination of fields.
Yeah.
And the right combination will...
So when you were doing this today to bring down this craft, were you then thinking, well, let's see if we can get one of the aquatics, see if they're around in the area?
Yeah.
So if we'd have got a negative on this, would you have then...
tried something else.
So it is a possibility that you could have got a negative on it?
Yeah. Or you can pull down a hologram of the sun, and then you can wander around space and find out where the ships are and just pick out and identify what ships are what. There's slight differences in the different types. The technology is the same in principle, but they have slight differences in particularly their engine technology. So again, we can sort of harness that difference to home in on them, so to speak. Taken a year or two to sort this out.
Come a long way recently though, haven't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The question is, where's it going?
Well, it looks like it's starting with contact, doesn't it?
Yes.
Or developing into...
But I think anyone who does this, they'll contact. It's not us, especially. This is the standard method of the way they do business and the way and it's very business-like with us.
Yes.
So anyone who engages has to do it through this medium. They're not going to sort of physically appear, the ones we are working with anyway, because you've seen from the holograms, it's real. I mean, it's no doubt about it that they're there. We think anyone who dowses and engages with certain protocols, they will communicate with. But at the end of the day, we can't do anything. We're powerless. They are so advanced in their ability to manipulate energy and move and things like this that we're no threat to them. Because they communicate by telepathy, so we've got to work on that. That's why people like yourselves, sensitive to these sorts of ideas, feelings and emotions, who try and tap into this telepathic link. We can observe them telepathizing between each other because they shoot magnetic beams to each other. And as you saw from the demonstration when they acknowledged you all, you can't reproduce that. We have not been able to reproduce that response in any way dowsing amongst ourselves. So I couldn't look at you and say, right, make your rods cross. I can put a sideline down when you don't, as I did this morning, but they can look at you and make your rods work.
Yes, I had that.
You've done the same. And that's
amazing.
Yeah,
actually.
and that's hard work initially because they're responding to the things, and you've got to work out what the responses mean. They put holograms down, they put magnetic images, they put symbols down, and it just takes hours to sort out. You know, so it's almost like they're testing you. So they don't write. They write a bit of English down, and of course with all of us working in different sites, we corroborate because they put things down and it's the same what they're putting down on different sites. The world is self-isolating itself because, out there in space are life forms who have this technology and have this communication, but we can't do it down here. And because we're locked into the electromagnetic world, we don't see them, understand, and we really are like a rock pool in space. we're living in a rock pool, completely oblivious to the ocean.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, people, I say, present company accepted, there are people who are tuning into this, of course.
And many people have been working with them in another lives, and it's more easy for them.
And of course they may be reaching out to you, but because of the mode of communication, English and other things, Spanish or something like this, they don't speak a lot verbally. We've observed them, they do it all telepathic. And like the English language is full of ambiguity.